Now, the reason why I came to Rishikesh this time was to follow a yoga philosophy course. I wanted to study the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali with my favorite teacher, Siddhartha Krishna. I met Siddhartha Krishna several years ago in an ashram here in Rishikesh. He was one of the philosophy teachers. And the first time that I came to one of his classes, I was immediately impressed. I was impressed by his capacity to transmit with so much ease the teachings of Vedanta, the teachings of the Vedas and the yoga philosophy, and by his vast knowledge. During the class, he can talk for hours and hours and hours non-stop. I actually made an interview of him a few years ago. I'm going to put the link to that interview in the description below so you can get to know more about him. So now I'm going to show you a small talk that I had with Siddhartha, a small interview where we talk a little bit about the Yoga Sutras. He's explaining what is the best way to study the Yoga Sutras and why we should study the Yoga Sutras. So I hope that will inspire you perhaps to come to Rishikesh at some point in time and maybe follow a course with Siddhartha Krishna.
The Yoga Sutras are texts by a collection of teachings by sage Patanjali, which systematically presents the theoretical as well as the practical aspects of yoga practice. I think the most important reason why today we need to study the Yoga Sutras is because without the study of the Yoga Sutras, our practice of asana, for example, which is what is now known as yoga in today's world, becomes completely physical in nature and totally limited to the body, and we really lose the purpose for which these asana practices were developed by the masters. We lose to grasp that. We will have no idea of the higher meaning, how these asana practices are not only beneficial to the physical body, but they can also be used to benefit our breathing pattern, to organize our emotions, our thoughts, our ideas, our mind. All this can never be understood without studying the Yoga Sutras, and that's why I think it is extremely important for any asana practitioner, if they want to go deeper into their practice, if they want to use their asana practice for some inner development, personality transformation, peace of mind, then they need to have a deeper inner approach, which can only come when they study the Yoga Sutras. This is how I understand it. And it is the most ancient text which presents the yoga system, the philosophical system, the theoretical aspect of yoga coherently. What we find before him, there are, for example, in Charaka Samhita, which is an even more ancient text, there is one chapter on yoga, but it's not dedicated to all the aspects of yoga, because that is an Ayurveda text. We find yoga-related practices, the word yoga itself, the same definition is given by Patanjali also in the extremely ancient pre-Buddhistic Upanishads. But again, it's scattered in different places. Upanishads are not only texts on yoga, they are about many other things, and yoga just occurs in them sporadically here and there. But Patanjali's text seems to be the first, at least available text. There might have been some others before him, but they haven't succeeded, at least not in their completeness. So Patanjali's work is the very first work that we have on the topic of yoga, and therefore it is deeply influential on anything that came later on the topic of yoga. In terms of books, there are so many books that have been written which can be used to study the Yoga Sutras. Lately, Edward Bryant has come out with a commentary on the Yoga Sutras in which he he sort of really includes the essence of most of the important Sanskrit commentaries, and again it is a highly praised work. People who have seen it, I have seen it myself, and not that I have gone through it everywhere, but everyone who sees it likes it, finds it quite interesting to read. It's a thick book, and yet not too detailed. And my only disappointment with that book is primarily limited to the preface, because Edward Bryant comes from the ISKCON Hare Krishna background. So to me it seems that he brings too much of the Gaudiya philosophy, which is a 15th century philosophy developed after the 15th century, after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He brings too much of it into his understanding and perspective of the Yoga Sutras, but maybe one could say the same thing, that I also, when I look at the Yoga Sutras, I bring too much of Advaita Vedanta, which is an 8th century development, into the Yoga Sutras. But at least in this case, Advaita Vedanta itself over the last 1000 years has incorporated Yoga Sutra into its framework. So at least this is completely traditionally, I'm not doing anything against the tradition, but I'm just doing what the traditional masters, up to someone like Swami Vivekananda, have been doing throughout the centuries. On the other hand, to create a mixture between Patanjali's yoga and the Gaudiya philosophy, this would be something very new, which most likely, to my knowledge, Edwin Bryant would be the first person of doing it. Prior to him, Gaudiya Sampradaya never had this interest of incorporating the Yoga Sutras into its practices. So there is some difference. What he's trying is something of his own, that he's combining both, which were never combined before. When I combine Advaita Vedanta and the Yoga Sutras, this is how the Yoga Sutras have been studied and understood for the past 1000 years. There was the other Sankhya way, without mixing it with Advaita Vedanta, ceased to exist after Advaita Vedanta came into the picture. Nobody continued that tradition. The only people to continue the study of the Yoga Sutras were the Advaita Vedantic teachers, who found that from an Advaita Vedantic perspective, the study of the Yoga Sutras is extremely important. So they incorporated it. And that's why so many of the Advaita Vedantic works, such as by Vidyaranya Muni or Madhusudana Saraswati, they incorporate most of the Yoga Sutras into their work. So I'm aware that I mix up Advaita Vedanta with Yoga Sutras, but as I'm not the first person to do it, this has been happening for the past 1000 years. So I don't see a problem with that. On the other hand, to mix up Gaudiya Sampradaya with Gaudiya Sampradaya's Achintya Bheda philosophy with the Yoga philosophy, this is something that hasn't been done till now, which he does in his preface. So from his perspective, obviously every scholar is free to do what they want, but yeah, it will be a new thing. Not wrong, but new. Yes. I think studying the Yoga Sutras on one's own, one can start learning them by heart. But again, even there, we need someone's help to correct our pronunciations, because initially, like with the study of yoga asanas, it becomes very difficult to notice our own mistakes. Somebody has to help us to notice our mistakes. And some of the ideas, so first of all, even learning to recite the Yoga Sutras correctly, a person has to have some good understanding of how Sanskrit has to be pronounced. Otherwise, someone's help has to be taken. And the same thing is about the philosophical aspect. That there is so much useless literature out there available right now on the Yoga Sutras, that it would be good if initially we take some help from someone who knows a little bit the text, which means to approach someone who has studied them. That has helped me tremendously, memorizing, because what I see even in the Iyengar asana practice tradition, which is the tradition that I follow, and I cannot speak about other traditions because I've had no exposure to those traditions, but I'm speaking of this because that is what I practice. And I see that the teachers often in Iyengar Yoga tradition, they incorporate the Yoga Sutras into the way we practice asana. Now, in these classes, when we are all busy practicing asanas, no one, neither the teacher nor the students, have the time to go back again and again to refer to the Yoga Sutras. When I'm sitting in my room and I want to incorporate the Yoga Sutras into my practice, it doesn't make sense to have the book next to me all the time and look up which sutra I want to incorporate and then do my practice. The best thing is to have these sutras actually in your mind when you are doing your practice, so that you can see how much of it you can incorporate without again and again referring back to the text. So if we want to incorporate Patanjali's teachings on yoga into our asana practice first, and then of course also into our daily life, then the best thing is to memorize them. The very purpose for which they were composed by Patanjali in such small forms, concise forms, because he wanted his listeners, he was concerned of the ease and difficulty that they will have if he gives them long sentences. Then it will be difficult for them to memorize. So the very purpose of writing these short aphorisms was to aid the listener to memorize them. So I think that that is really, and later on, after a person becomes a teacher, then of course he will need it the most, because if he wants to incorporate Patanjali's Yoga Sutras into his teaching of asana, then he has to know those sutras by heart. He cannot always keep a book of the Yoga Sutras with him while teaching asanas. So he has to have them in his memory. So the more we commit them to our memory, the more helpful it will be to our practice of yoga, even seen from the perspective of asana practice. It is tremendously beneficial. And it trains our power of retention. It gives us the opportunity to train it, because even this is like a muscle. You stop using it, you lose the strength in it. And the more you use it, the more you keep it strong. Memory is also like a muscle. So I think that's an opportunity to train the muscles known as memory. Yes. That's
Excellent.
it.
Yes.
Okay.
So I hope that by watching this video you will feel inspired to come to Rishikesh and perhaps try to follow one of the courses with Siddhartha Krishna. I'm sure you will enjoy it and you will learn a lot from yoga philosophy, from Vedanta, and from the deeper aspect of the yoga tradition. And if you like this video, don't forget to give it a like and to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.